Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are streaming live, hopefully, again here on the Voices of Wrestling YouTube. If you are in the chat room, you can comment on the show, ask questions during the show. We did this last week. And Rob McCarran here, by the way, as I perfect my intros on these live shows. We're trying it again. Try another live show here on Monday night after Raw. We'll see if anyone wants to join in the chat. We are taking calls today, as you see on the screen, 260-494-3811, or the Skype username, LetsSayThings. You have to add Let's Say Things as a contact, and then I will accept it, and you can call in to the show, or use the phone number on any cell phone. We are talking anything from the world of wrestling. Got a couple topics on the screen. This is not a WWE only show. This is your show, really. Whatever you want to talk about in the world of wrestling. It can be anything at all. It doesn't even have to be a topic that's on the screen. It can be anything at all, and we are talking it here on the YouTube show. So we will take your calls. If anyone would like to call in at any point, go ahead. If we get a couple of people calling in at the same time, I can't take everyone on the line. We had a couple of instances last week where there were more than one person calling in at a time. If you get to the voicemail box or don't get accepted, keep trying. I will take calls once the lines clear up, but that's 260-494-3811. Or the username on Skype is Let's Say Things. A lot going on in the world of wrestling this week. Not as crazy as last week when we had Wrestle Kingdom 10 and the New Japan Pro Wrestling talent exodus, if you will. There was a lot going on that week. Thankfully, a little bit less going on this week, but still quite a bit on the docket. I mean, we had Sting announced as the first inductee to the WWE Hall of Fame tonight. So he will be your headliner going up in Dallas to the Hall of Fame. Those of you, if you have Hall of Fame tickets, are excited by this move, call in, let us know. Is Sting a quality headliner for you going into the Hall of Fame? Does that make you happy that you bought your ticket? Are you a little bit disappointed with the headliner? Although I don't know how you necessarily could be. I don't know who exactly they're going to get that would be a bigger headliner right now than Sting. But I don't know. Maybe there's someone else out there. Maybe you're a big Goldberg fan and would have rather had him going on in the Hall of Fame as the headliner. We got the New Japan Pro Wrestling talent raid is still ongoing. New Japan trying to combat all of the talent reportedly going to WWE by signing some of the Bullet Club members to longer than the normal 1-year deal. Tama Tonga, Doc Gallows, or excuse me, not Doc Gallows, he's gone. Tama Tonga, Rocky Romero signing back. So Roppongi Vice seems like it's going to keep going. And Bad Luck Fale. Getting another deal with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So it looks like he's going to stay right where he is. Also, hopefully on the show, if you watched last week, we had quite a few technical snafus it was an impromptu show. I really just started doing this. It was like 10 minutes before Raw ended. I'm like, hey, let's do a show. We've done these live shows with Shake Them Ropes, my co-host Jeff Hawkins and I, after WWE pay-per-views and NXT specials. So I thought, hey, why not do it after Raw? And there's a lot of people, kind of hyped up with wrestling and the ongoings. Plus, last week was a pretty good week to start it with all the craziness going on. So I appreciate those who called in last week. If you want to call in again, feel free. Like I said, the topics, any topic you wish. You can find us on Twitter at Voices Wrestling or myself at Shake Them Ropes. At Shake Them Ropes on Twitter. I will try to monitor the Twitter feed to see if we get any conversations going on there with anything that has to do with wrestling. Like I said, some of the topics on the screen. During Raw tonight, there was a lot of news going on too. Evolve. Gabe Sapolsky announced that Chad Gable and Jason Jordan from NXT will be making a personal appearance at the Evolve show. Evolve 54 happening on Saturday, January 23rd, the weekend of the Royal Rumble. NXT is running that Friday in Orlando. Evolve is running Saturday and Sunday in Orlando, but that Saturday show will feature an appearance from Jason Jordan and Chad Gable. Yes, they will be signing autographs. They will not be wrestling on the show, but they will be signing autographs. And William Regal will be appearing on the show. Most likely not on the pay-per-view portion, but kind of like Sami Zayn a couple of months ago, he will be there. He will be there, maybe in a scout role, maybe in a promo battle with somebody, because someone who's going to be on that show is Sami Callihan, formerly Solomon Crow in WWE. So as we get our first caller on the line here, Nathan, how are you tonight?
Good. Yourself?
I'm doing quite well. Kicking off the show here as we talk about any topic you wish. So Nathan, thanks for calling in. What is on your mind?
You are welcome. I would like to talk about the Sting WWE Hall of Fame induction. The question I have for you, and this came across my mind, and it might have come across the mind of a bunch of other people that were watching the show tonight. But I am wondering, has WWE come out and said that Sting's career is officially over? Do we know that?
We don't know it, but it certainly seems likely, even though I think he probably was going in this year, even if he was going to wrestle at WrestleMania. So
you'd think that if he had a match at WrestleMania, that they would still do the match, but still induct him the night before.
Yes. Yeah, and remember, Ric Flair was inducted the night before he had his retirement match. So
that is true.
There was precedent for it. He could have still wrestled. I know the mantra is that you don't go into the Hall of Fame until your in-ring career is done. They don't want to induct, current performers. But Sting was likely going to finish up at WrestleMania anyway. And they probably miss him now with all the talent that's not going to be on that show. Sting might have been a good addition. But yeah, I think him going in the Hall of Fame pretty much signifies that his career is over, even though it was likely over that weekend anyway. Do you think he's are you excited for him as a headliner on the event? Because he certainly seems like he'll be the big name going into the Hall of Fame in Dallas.
I think it's a valid headliner. I mean, I don't, like you said it earlier, I don't think you could get anybody else to headline that class and it be like an instant draw. I think Sting is a guy that people know who he is, and they will buy tickets to the Hall of Fame just to see his induction. Mm-hmm. The weird thing is that I don't know if you thought about this, but he will now become the first and likely only person to ever be inducted in both the WWE Hall of Fame and the TNA Hall of Fame, because we have to remember that still exists.
It still exists barely, doesn't it?
Yes.
We have
but I think there's like 4 people in it, but it's not really that much of a Hall of Fame, but it's still a thing, and it's still kind of like a weird fact that, I don't know, it came across my mind, which I don't pay much attention to TNA, especially now that they're on a network that I don't even have. But it's just, there's, I think, 4 people in the Hall of Fame, and Sting was the first guy inducted into their Hall of Fame. But now he's going into the WWE Hall of Fame, and I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Who do we have? And if you're in the chat room and can play along with us, who is in, off the top of your head, in the TNA Hall of Fame? We got Sting. Who are the Dudley Boys in the TNA Hall of Fame?
The Dudley Boys, as far as I know, are in the Hall of Fame. So it's those 3 for sure. And I think Jeff Jarrett was the last person inducted.
We got Kurt Angle's in there for sure.
Yeah, but his induction was weird because if you remember right, and I was casually watching TNA at the time. I'm not I used to follow them when they first started out. Uh-huh. And I was watching all the Asylum year pay-per-views that they had week to week. But once they got on major pay-per-view and they were on FSN and whatever, Fox Sports 1, I guess it is now, I kind of fell off as a fan,
right,
and really wasn't that big into it because they really didn't do much. And when they tried to do the whole Monday Night War thing and resurrect that, it really fell off, and Hulk Hogan kind of killed that company, and they really haven't recovered since then. I'm not a TNA fan now, but there was a time when I was.
Sure. Yeah, and I remember being, in the early to mid 2000s, it was exciting to see what Jeff Jarrett was starting out with the Asylum days. It was exciting to see some of the talents that you heard about, but you couldn't necessarily see on a large scale. I think when they really got on to Spike TV is when both I started to get into it the most and also peaked out and started to drop out of it a little bit.
Sure.
You know, seeing AJ Styles versus Roderick Strong on Saturday night in prime time was a pretty big deal, especially following Ring of Honor for as long as I did. But yeah, I think there were good times in TNA. It was intriguing. It was interesting. It's cool to go back and see some of those Asylum year pay-per-views, to see some of the names who are now super big working as low card guys on those shows. The same way it was exciting when I first got into pro wrestling to go back and see the late 80s pay-per-views, to see, you know, all the big names of the current day, especially in WCW, you know, work in different roles back in the late 80s. It's always fun to kind of go back and see, you know, 10 years in the past, because let's face it, TNA, amazingly as it is, has been around for over 10 years. And you go back to watch
It's been around longer than WCW.
Longer than WCW.
Which is weird.
It's been an amazing run. It's been an amazing run. We have Quentin in the chat saying that Earl Hebner is in the TNA Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I just pulled it up on Wikipedia because we all know that Wikipedia is so reliable and whatnot.
Absolutely.
But I figured I'd run down these inductees and actually who's in the TNA Hall of Fame, just so we could have a reference. And yes, Earl Hebner is in fact in the Hall of Fame, but it was Sting who was inducted in 2012 by Lex Luger. 2013, Dixie Carter inducted Kurt Angle. Then in 2000, it's weird because I guess they skipped 2014 and didn't have an inductee.
Yeah, they didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. So 2015, they inducted Jeff Jarrett.
Okay.
That was done by Dixie Carter. And then 2015 was Billy Corgan inducting Earl Hebner. I thought that the Dudleys were in.
I could have
the Hall
sworn.
of Fame.
I could have sworn the Dudleys were in.
Because I thought they were inducted in 2014, but maybe I am wrong in that.
I wonder
if anybody in your chat room can correct me on that, but I could have swore that they were in.
I believe we're right. I'm going to go Dudleys in the TNA Hall of Fame. And one day, without question, they will go into the WWE Hall of Fame. So you will have your own little wing of Sting and the Dudleys, and likely Kurt Angle, in the WWE and TNA section of the Hall of Fame. I can't believe Hulk Hogan. Did we say Hulk Hogan? Is he in the Hall of Fame?
For TNA?
For TNA, yeah.
He is not.
He is not, man. They missed that boat. You would have figured he'd be the first one.
Well, yeah, but now with what's going on with him, they're probably glad that they didn't put him in there.
You know what? I don't put anything past TNA to do. I don't think they would care. If Hulk Hogan agreed to go back today, they would take him.
That is true, because they are desperate for whatever
they would
get at this point.
Absolutely, they would take him. But yeah, we're getting a lot of confirmation that the Dudley Boys are indeed in, because they were a group induction.
Okay, well then Wikipedia is wrong, which doesn't surprise me because Wikipedia is frequently wrong.
Wikipedia.
But that's the thing, or when I searched for it on Google, that is what popped up, and it doesn't surprise me that it's wrong.
I'm amazed, Nathan, that we were able to pretty much guess all of the inductees. The only one we missed was Earl Hebner, because why wouldn't we? Yeah,
because who would ever think that a referee would be inducted into the Hall of Fame? But it's funny that you mentioned that. And now that we know that he's in there, it's like when they inducted him, because I believe it was last year that they did that. But it's like I remember scratching my head at hearing that news. And I remember a lot of people on Twitter having the reaction of, oh, this company is so far off the wagon that they're going to induct a referee, which, I mean, Earl Hebner is a great referee, but I have my gripes with him. Just watching some of the stuff that he does in the matches that he referees. And I think you might know what I'm talking about. If you don't, I can explain it, but he just, as a referee, drives me nuts. So, I mean, he's a great referee as far as like name recognition and high profile. And he's probably had a lot of, or the most high profile matches. And he's probably the most recognizable name as a referee, but he's not the best that I've ever seen.
I wouldn't say he's the best, and he's not one when I was refereeing in the mid-2000s. He was not one that I would constantly look at and take tips from by any means.
When I used to referee too, and when I did it, because I started in 2003 and then I stopped in about 2006. But when I did it, he was a guy that like I would study tape and stuff like that, and he was a guy that I would never, if he was refereeing a match, I'd skip it
Mm-hmm.
because there's nothing that I would want to take from him as far as learning how to referee a match and figuring out what to do.
No, I agree. I think he had a lot of big matches in the WWE days, and he certainly did his part a lot of times. He was really good. Earl Hebner was really good in the ring when a match would fall apart. You saw that. There's one Kurt Angle TNA match, I believe, where the match fell apart. He had like a concussion, and he basically saved the day on that. He's really good with putting matches together in the ring.
Well, and there was that one, I think it was that triple threat match that Rock, Kurt Angle, and Triple H. Yeah. And if you remember, the table broke when they were doing a pedigree spot. Yeah. And Kurt Angle got a concussion. And then the story that Triple H told was that people started yelling at Earl Hebner through his headset, and Triple H, and so Earl Hebner starts giving him directions, and he said, "Earl, this is my match. Fuck off. I'll do whatever I want."
Mm-hmm.
But so he, like, there's been times when he's had to orchestrate certain stuff and certain spots and matches, but it's like, it's not normal for a referee to do that.
Right.
At least I don't think so, because I've never had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of people doing it, but it's not commonplace.
No, you'd be right on that. I was lucky enough whenever I would, I never had a match that really fell apart that I was a part of. I never really had.
Did, trust me.
Did you? Yeah, I would say at least on a large scale. There were some where, but I was pretty lucky. There would be injuries and different things where we had to think on the fly, and then, the match just kind of ends one way or another. But I got pretty lucky without, not having the whole concussion deal.
Did you have any injuries?
Oh, I was, if you follow along to, who Drake Younger is, I assume, right?
I do, yes.
Yeah. So Drake Younger, back before he is the current NXT referee, and before he really got his body into shape and started working more of a real pro wrestling style, he was doing the backyard, and then he went into the deathmatch stuff. Drake Younger, one of the nicest guys ever. He was in IWA Mid-South on a show in Plainfield, Indiana, outside of Indianapolis, and he's talked about it on shoot interviews before. Chuck Taylor has brought it up on his High Spots deal that he has with Trent Beretta. Drake Younger one time sliced his thumb open.
Ugh.
And just sliced it clean open, blood spilling out. He's like grabbing onto his thumb to make sure nothing can come out of there. I was the referee for that match, and I'm right there once this happens, and Drake Younger just looks at me and he's like, "I gotta go." And he legitimately walked to the back and rushed to the hospital because his thumb was sliced clean open.
So
with blood.
There was no finish for the match.
There was a finish because it was a multi-man. It wasn't just Drake Younger.
Oh, okay.
It was like one of those where it would close an IWA Mid-South show, and it was Ian Rotten and Tank and an Insane Lane and all these people in a death match. And Drake Younger just got out of there. The match continued. But yeah, Drake was gone by the time I got backstage because it was insane. I mean, you can't do that. Sure. I can't remember any injuries that were too bad. So that's a good thing. I think I got pretty lucky with not having, a lot of guys get injured in the ring, but I was also lucky to usually be in the ring with pretty talented guys who weren't haphazard, weren't risking themselves too much. I was in the ring plenty with Tracy Smothers, so he was never going to get hurt. It was fun time, but yeah, that was the one thing I always remember. And I did plenty of death matches where it's scary looking stuff, but thankfully nothing actually happens.
I did matches involving thumbtacks.
Oh, sure.
But luckily, nobody ever got injured. Like I never had anybody get injured in matches. But it's like I was in a match that was like 40 minutes long, and I ended up breaking my ribs.
Oh wow!
So yeah, like 5 minutes into it, and I had to keep going.
No,
but yeah, and it was because we were doing an outside show in the middle of November, and I live in Minnesota.
Ew.
Minnesota in November is cold.
Minnesota right now is cold.
Yeah, so it's colder than shit outside. But you can imagine how cold it was. So when I hit, there were 6 people in the ring, so I was busy with 2 of them. I saw a pinfall happening out of the corner of my eye, and then I went and to go count the fall, I jumped as high as I could in the air, put my legs out so my body's completely parallel to the ring, and I hit it from like a 6-foot drop, and 2 of my ribs snap in half because it was so cold that it was like hitting concrete.
Nope.
And then blood starts pouring out of my mouth. They send out another referee. I wave them off, say no. I said, I want to finish this match. But like, luckily, and then a buddy of mine was in a match, and he had a guy try to jump from the top rope to the outside onto the ground, and that guy ended up breaking his ankle. So I mean, stuff does happen. It's crazy.
And what is going on up there in Minnesota? What is happening? Oh man.
Exactly.
Anything else on your mind in this crazy week? Amazingly, the second craziest week so far of January 2016.
Well, it's crazy because we've only had 2 weeks.
Crazy nonetheless. I mean, we got ROH announcing New Japan pay-per-views. We got New Japan creating contracts they never created before. We got Brock Lesnar officially, it looks to be like he's going to be in the Royal Rumble match for the WWE Championship. Sting in the Hall of Fame. I mean, we got, as I said in the opening, we have NXT talent going to Evolve again. We got a lot going on.
The one thing I'm interested in is to see, like, because I know that Shinsuke Nakamura is pretty much signed, along with Carl Anderson, Doc Gallows, and AJ Styles. I'm interested to see how they handle Shinsuke Nakamura. And I remember you saying, I think it was you or it might have been Jeff, say that they signed Nakamura in order to launch the network over in Japan because Hideo Itami hasn't really been taking, and he's kind of out for the next 8 months or whatever, however much longer he's out. But I'm interested to see how they handle him. And my biggest fear, and I made this joke on Twitter, and I think a few people stole it, or maybe I stole it from somebody else, I'm not sure. But I did say that, Shinsuke Nakamura is going to get signed and they're going to turn him into a sushi chef. And then it was funny because I Googled, I can't remember what I was doing or what inclined me to do so, but there is a Japanese chef who is a sushi chef with the last name Nakamura.
Oh, sure.
So that wouldn't surprise me at all.
The one thing I will say, if your idea is to sign Shinsuke Nakamura to be the face of WWE in Japan, to be the face of the WWE network, while you may change the name, I mean, I think Shinsuke Nakamura will come in and likely keep his name, but,
that's what I'm hoping for,
we could see a new name. They could, have him for their branding, but you don't want to change him too much. You want him to be the Shinsuke Nakamura that people in Japan already know so that they're not turned off when they sign up for your network or watch your programming and see a guy that may be offensive or not what they had expected. So I would see Shinsuke Nakamura most likely being kept pretty much the same as he is right now. But you mentioned Hideo Itami. Hideo Itami's still out with injury. There are reports now that he's having second thoughts about living in the United States and might want to go back to Japan full time. There's a lot of different issues going on. The key thing here is, and we talk about this when WWE signed Mystico and when they bring in different Hispanic talents to try and be the face of WWE in Espanol, you can't just have one. You have to cultivate a few stars of different backgrounds so that there's a number of different talents that folks can get behind. If you were WWE, you would love to have both Hideo Itami and Shinsuke Nakamura be important players in WWE, so that you have a couple of different types of wrestlers, a couple of different types of personalities who can be the face of your company in a somewhat new area. I mean, obviously WWE has toured there before. They've had a live taping there before. They are just now getting their network out there. You would hope that they can cultivate a number of Japanese stars and not just have Shinsuke Nakamura be, what they've hoped Alberto Del Rio would be, and that's a lone star of a certain background. So I would love to see Hideo Itami come back and be strong. It just doesn't seem like after the year he had, after the reports of him having second thoughts, after the injury, after him being already, at best, maybe a mid-carder in NXT, it's interesting to see where Shinsuke Nakamura come in. If Shinsuke Nakamura comes into WWE at or before WrestleMania, maybe the day after, who knows? If he comes in around WrestleMania time, would you see him on the WWE roster by then? Would you see him in NXT? Because this has been a debate now for a week. Shinsuke Nakamura, where is he headed? Where do you see Shinsuke Nakamura going that best serves WWE, best serves him, and best serves the audience?
I've heard multiple rumors about, and shouldn't say rumors, but opinion.
Nathan, I want to know what you think. Where do you think he would go, and where do you think he should go?
I think he should go to NXT for about a month or two to learn the style of WWE, but you can't keep him in NXT that long because he's an older guy, and you've got to do with him what you want to do with him while you can.
Sure.
And so I would put him in NXT for maybe 2 or 3 months and have him learn the style and then call him up and then see where things go from there.
Yeah, have him at least learn a little bit, don't throw him into the fire right away, right? And this goes for any talent that comes into WWE. Have him spend a little time down there. Maybe he doesn't go to NXT on TV. Maybe he just works an event or two, gets acclimated to everything, finds a place to live. You have this guy come in and just kind of get acclimated a little bit. He doesn't have to stay down there. He doesn't have to work a program on NXT TV. Maybe a match or two to be kind of a welcome and get the audience prepped for him. Because I don't know if he goes to a WWE show, a Raw like we had in New Orleans tonight. If Shinsuke Nakamura were to show up unannounced on Raw tonight, that crowd is not going to know who he is. And they're not going to react very well. A Royal Rumble crowd might. I mean, Jeff and I have had this debate with AJ Styles. Would AJ Styles get a reaction on a Royal Rumble show? I think Shinsuke Nakamura would on a Royal Rumble show where more hardcores tend to take in that show.
It depends what town they're in.
Yeah, that's true. It's just, I wouldn't see Shinsuke Nakamura getting a positive reaction on a WWE television show, but you put him in NXT and he's going to get a godlike welcome on the first show he shows up at. And then the WWE audience who may not know who he is sees that on NXT. And, little Johnny goes to Raw and tells his daddy, hey, I saw this guy on NXT. He's a big star. I should cheer. And that's what I think you're right. I think spend some time in NXT, spend some time in the Performance Center. It's probably best for both Shinsuke Nakamura and for AJ Styles, honestly. Spend a little time there, regardless of when he debuts. But we shall see. Nathan, anything else on your mind before we move on with the show?
No, I think we're good. I mean, I've got about 23 minutes of your time, so I'm good with that. And I appreciate you having me on the show.
Absolutely, Nathan. Thank you so much for calling in and joining in the discussion of all the crazy news this week.
You're welcome.
All right, that was Nathan calling in on the Skype line. Skype, Let's Say Things, all one word. The info is on my Twitter at Shake Them Ropes. You can call in 260-494-3811. 260-494-3811 is the call-in number. We had on our Twitter feed at Shake Them Ropes, because Raw has just ended. For those who may not be watching WWE, maybe you're watching the Alabama and Clemson game. Maybe you're outside the U.S. sleeping right now, as you should be. Maybe you're doing something else with your time. But we had Sean F., who is the Voices of Wrestling Raw reviewer. He texts in, am I wrong to feel like watching them keep pushing Reigns like this is like watching the kid in Little League who doesn't want to play but keeps getting pushed onto the pitcher's mound by his dad, who is also the coach? I feel kind of bad for him, but you also kind of want the kid to bomb just to piss the overbearing dad off. Is Roman Reigns a Little Leaguer who does not want to play baseball, but the dad keeps making him play baseball because dad wants to live vicariously through him? Is Vince McMahon pushing this guy who doesn't want to be the top guy, which seems strange to say? Like, if you're Roman Reigns, why wouldn't you want to be the top guy? Why wouldn't you want to be the top guy if you're anyone in that company? It's crazy to think, because Daniel Bryan in WWE doesn't seem to want to be the top guy. He wants to be the best guy, but he doesn't necessarily want to be the top guy. And he kind of got to the top spot at WrestleMania 30 by accident. I mean, literally by accident. But Roman Reigns, is he the little leaguer who's getting overpushed by his overbearing father? Interesting thought from Sean F. On Twitter. Jake responded to that by saying this all hits way too close to home, but it is a perfect description. Sounds like Jake was that little leaguer who was getting overpushed by his dad. But that is true. Part of the news today was Roman Reigns is going to be in the Rumble. Brock Lesnar is going to be in the Rumble. The WWE title is on the line. And it certainly seems like we're pushing Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar again. What will Triple H do at WrestleMania? I don't know. Maybe he still goes to Roman Reigns. Maybe we have Brock Lesnar at Fastlane. We could very well see Brock Lesnar, if he were to win the championship at Royal Rumble, could very well defend it against Roman at Fastlane in Cleveland. Defeat Roman Reigns. Maybe Roman Reigns goes back onto Triple H. Brock Lesnar defends the title against someone else. Who that someone else is? Maybe it's Shinsuke Nakamura. That would be crazy, wouldn't it? Probably unlikely. I just don't know who else you can put in these matchups. It seems like we had John Cena, we have Undertaker, we have Triple H. But there's one man out. I mean, we got 5 guys going into a spot here. Quentin on the chat room at YouTube. If you're watching live, you can chat with others on the YouTube page, voicesofwrestling.com/YouTube. If you are in the chat and would like to call in, the phone lines are open right now, so feel free. But Quentin asks, how likely is it that Sami Zayn versus Finn Balor main events takeover in Dallas? And that's where we see Balor turn and the Balor Club thing begins. Well, I think it's very likely that you see Sami Zayn versus Finn Balor in Dallas. They could very well both go in as baby faces, and then one person turns, or maybe it's just a good guy match and may the best man win. If Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows are coming in, they could show up as the Balor Club. I think it makes sense for them to be in NXT over the main roster in WWE. At the same time, though, they don't necessarily fit in with NXT unless they're going to use Carl and Doc Gallows as also kind of player coaches, where they really help out hands-on with the Performance Center. But it's kind of a strange fit. But yeah, I think that match very well may happen at TakeOver in Dallas. It very well may happen. Steven on the chat room says, doubtful this means anything, but apparently Daniel Bryan is doing a signing in Pittsburgh a couple of days before the Rumble. Yeah, I wouldn't put too much stock in that as far as meaning anything. Could he be a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble? Quite possibly. Maybe this guy has been actually cleared for a while now, despite his Twitter comments where he keeps begging to be cleared. Maybe he's been cleared. Or maybe they're clearing him on the Royal Rumble weekend and he will in fact be a surprise return. Maybe he'll win the title. Maybe he's never going to wrestle again. I mean, the crazy rumor started by Scott Keith at Scott Keith's blog, where Daniel Bryan is set to be released soon, which does not seem likely. Trent Williams on the chat room says, I still see AJ Styles debuting on the Royal Rumble match. And that brings us to, we have Shinsuke Nakamura, who's likely not going to be at the Rumble, likely not going to be in WWE at the earliest, probably mid-February. Maybe he ends up still working New Beginning. I mean, I know Tokyo Sports came out with an interview with him, and we have comments from New Japan saying he's done as of the end of January. You very well could keep him for 2 more shows at New Beginning. I'm not completely sold on him not working those shows yet. But Shinsuke Nakamura is not coming at the Rumble. Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows are going back to Japan to work the New Beginning tour. They're not going to be at the Rumble. AJ Styles. AJ Styles very well could debut at the Royal Rumble, especially with this world title on the line. Do a little sidebar with AJ where he's a former champion in another company who's coming in to, claim the top prize in WWE and be a little surprise entrant. And I think that crowd in Orlando would really react to him. Jeff Hawkins and I on Shake Them Ropes have been talking about the WWE side of this New Japan talent invasion. We will do so some more on Shake Them Ropes this week. You can get voicesofwrestling.com/STR for our weekly podcast that specializes in WWE and NXT. That show, we will be back on Tuesday night with that. For more on the New Japan side, Rich and Joe, the Voices of Wrestling main podcast, the flagship show, will be back Thursday talking about more in terms of the New Japan side, because New Japan has re-signed Tama Tonga Bad Luck Fale, Rocky Romero. So they've kept some of the foreigners there in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and we will see if anyone else from there comes here, if anyone else from here goes there. We don't know yet. Ice Cold Wrestling on the chat room says Jeff Hardy is going to come back at the Royal Rumble. I don't think so. Could. I think there's more than a small chance that the Hardys collectively at some point this year come back to WWE, but you never know. I mean, Matt Hardy seems pretty entrenched in TNA and doing his deal outside of TNA, promoting shows in the Carolinas. So I don't necessarily know if they're going to come back. Trent says that Alabama is winning the title game, so I guess, roll Tide. But we'll see. Quentin says, I think the way Bryan keeps playing up the please clear me thing recently means he could very well be in the Rumble. Very well could. Daniel Bryan in the Rumble. Should he win? If Daniel Bryan is in the Royal Rumble, should he win? Because the last 2 years he probably should have. I don't know if that's the case this year. I think we're done with Daniel Bryan. Sting is going to be in the 2016 Hall of Fame. William Regal, Chad Gable, and Jason Jordan, if you missed it, are going to appear at Evolve 54 on Saturday, January 23rd. Solomon Crowe is on that show. Currently, Sami Callihan. He is going to be wrestling on that show. So if you're in the Orlando area and miss him in NXT, you can go hop, skip, and the jump to Evolve 54 wrestling Ethan Page. We had Brock Lesnar on Raw. John Cena's hurt. After last week's show, after Shake Them Ropes too, John Cena, it was revealed, has a shoulder injury. So he is hurt. He is out. He is not going to be in the Rumble. He is unlikely for WrestleMania. So that's a big name gone. So John Cena's out. Plans reshuffling. Pretty major news. Outside of the world of WWE, it was announced today that Ring of Honor's Global Wars will come to Chicago in May 8th. Global Wars. If you're out there and a Ring of Honor fan, if you're in Chicago, what do you feel about Global Wars? A legitimate pay-per-view going to be on real pay-per-view coming up on May 8th, a Sunday from Chicago. You're going to see the Stars of New Japan come in against the Stars of Ring of Honor. The Stars of New Japan, however, without Shinsuke Nakamura. So for 2 years, Chicago had been waiting to see Nakamura live, and just like that, no Nakamura live, at least with Ring of Honor and New Japan. This Sunday, New Japan Pro Wrestling Fantasticamania 2016. Fantasticamania comes on Sunday morning here in the States, Sunday night in Japan. You are going to start seeing the Worlds Collide of CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling. So that tour goes for about a week, and then you have, after a couple of days break, you are going to see the New Beginning tour, the Road to New Beginning, kick off in late January. And that is a tour that the Bullet Club is supposedly going to be on, and we'll find out if Kenny Omega's group is going to be called the Bullet Club Elite or just the Elite, if they're changing the name and dropping the Bullet Club. So we will see how all of that goes. Trent asks, who else do you see going into the Hall of Fame this year? I see the Freebirds going into the Hall of Fame, being in Texas. I see the Freebirds going in. I thought there was a good chance Eric Bischoff would go into the Hall of Fame this year too. I thought if they were going to go to Minneapolis next year, they would hold him off and do Eric Bischoff's induction in Minneapolis. But if they're not going to Minneapolis next year, might as well induct Eric Bischoff now. So you could see Eric Bischoff in. You could see the Freebirds in. Sting, obviously the headliner. Marcus Corvan tweeted, the old Monty Brown made an appearance on Wrestling Twitter this week when Monty Brown tweeted out an image of the Hall of Fame logo for WWE, saying that it was good to be signing a Legends contract. So Marcus Corvan may be in the plans for something here in the future, if only an Access appearance maybe. But maybe the 6-month run of Marcus Corvan is enough to get him in the WWE Hall of Fame. I wouldn't expect it, but stranger things have happened. Do you think if WWE is keeping Bryan from wrestling, do you think he could jump ship? AMLG in the chat room asks, do you think Bryan might jump ship? And yes, if he really wants to wrestle and thinks he can, and WWE disallows him, I absolutely see Daniel Bryan going somewhere else. I mean, Brie Bella still has the connection there in WWE. I don't think there would be hard feelings. They would certainly welcome him back to do non-wrestling stuff if it is as bad as WWE thinks, and they're keeping him out for this reason. I could see Daniel Bryan going to wrestle. I could see him going to wrestle in Japan. I can see him going to wrestle for Evolve. I don't necessarily think he would go back to Ring of Honor just because of all the outside stuff, but you never know. He could go back there too with the deal with New Japan. I think he would. Daniel Bryan seems like the type of guy who would want to get the most out of it. So I could see him not being tied to any particular company and just wrestling all over the place. Mexico, Britain. If he thought his years were coming to a close, he could go everywhere. He could absolutely go everywhere. Charging Sentinel in the chat room asks, hey, Rob, what do you think about the report saying Bryan would be released on the 18th? I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all, actually. I don't think they would prorate a future date, a release like that. I also don't think they would release him permanently. Maybe they cut off his wrestling contract and move him to a Legends contract if he was indeed not going to wrestle again. But flat out release Daniel Bryan? No, I don't think that would happen. Even if he wasn't going to wrestle, I think you keep him as long as you possibly can, pay him his downside guarantee, and maybe work out some type of arrangement to pay him bonuses for certain things if you're keeping him out of the ring, even though he's cleared to be in the ring. Obviously, that would be hurting his paycheck, and I could see why Daniel Bryan would be upset with that, so maybe work out some type of deal. But him leaving WWE next Monday, I don't see happening, but you can never tell because I didn't see last Monday happening. I didn't see reports coming out of Nakamura and AJ Styles both going to WWE in the same day, and that happened. So you never know what's going on. What you never know also that's happening right now is I believe, and if you're in the chat room, let me know if this is the case. I don't believe our camera has frozen the entire show. If you were with us last week, the camera froze and all hell broke loose. In fact, I even have a backup image. If this camera had frozen tonight, I was going to go to this image right here of Sting in the Hall of Fame and Sting different pictures so that I could fix my camera and you wouldn't have to see me frozen on screen. But go figure, I believe my camera has not frozen. Cross your fingers. So if you're in the chat room, hopefully the audio has worked out this well. We're an hour in, so I really hope the audio worked out this well. If it's been echoing or bothering you, I apologize, and I'm sorry it's done that for an hour. I hope not. So far, so good, we're seeing, so that's great. Phone lines are open. Skype line is Let's Say Things, LetsSayThings, all one word. The phone line, 260-494-3811. You can call in before our show is over. Get your thoughts on anything in the wrestling world, or if you just have a question for me, by all means, you can go ahead and do that. Last week we had some pretty good calls. Nathan was a really good call there, talking about the wide world of wrestling. What else has gone on today? I mean, that's a lot. AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, Carl Anderson, Doc Gallows. AJ Styles and Doc Gallows were on a show this weekend. Doc Gallows promoted a show in the South called WrestleMerica. That's his promotion. AJ Styles worked the show. It was a tag match with Doc Gallows against Sal Rinauro and Jimmy Rave, and seemed to be all good reviews coming from those who went to that show. Charging Sentinel asks, no Jeff this week, by the way. This is not an episode of Shake Them Ropes. This is a live YouTube exclusive show. It is a video only. We are not releasing this as an audio podcast. We did this last Monday night. It was pretty successful. We had a lot of people join in live. We had a lot of people watch on demand. We had some good callers, good feedback in the chat. And then we did Shake Them Ropes on Tuesday with Jeff and I, our regular WWE specific show. This is an all wrestling show. And what I would like to make this into is a regular weekly thing. A regular weekly thing where we come on and we take calls and we have this nice chat after Raw and we talk about all the craziness that happened over the weekend. You know, pretty soon we'll have a lot more to talk about still with, you know, guys debuting in WWE, the Royal Rumble, pay-per-views, NXT specials, NXT on tour, New Japan Pro Wrestling. We get, you know, two different tours happening this month with Fantastica Mania and the Road to New Beginning. So there will be plenty to talk about. Jeff and I will be back with Shake Them Ropes tomorrow in all the regular audio platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, voicesofwrestling.com. Follow at Shake Them Ropes. We are still doing the shows. The Shake Them Ropes shows come out on Tuesday. Voices of Wrestling flagship podcasts come out Wednesday or Thursday. So Jeff will be on Shake Them Ropes this week. This video that you're watching right now, live or on demand later, is not an episode of Shake Them Ropes. It is tentatively titled VOW Live. I don't have a better name for it. I don't know what else I should call it. If you have a suggestion for a name, hit me up on Twitter at Shake Them Ropes or leave it in the chat room here. This is not an episode of Shake Them Ropes. It is just a solo call-in show. So hopefully we grow this and more people call in. I really want to encourage you to, if you have anything at all, I mean, spend 2 minutes with me, spend 5 seconds with me, spend 30 minutes with me. I don't care. Come on in and we'll talk whatever you want to talk about. If you try to call in and talk about Big Japan wrestling, however, I may not be very good to talk to you about that. I have no idea what's going on. I know the big promotions in Japan. We can talk about those. I watch Noah. I watch New Japan. I'm not going to be good to talk about Big Japan. US Indies, WWE, whatever you want to talk about. We have plenty of people listening to the chat. Mean Mox says, I look very Turkish looking. So that's 2. David Bix, you have a fellow Turkish Rob truther. Trent Williams suggests wrestling ramblings with Rob. The ramblings part really does fit in, doesn't it? Yes. Technical difficulties with Rob. I put on Twitter over under 3.5, the number of technical difficulties I would have on this live show today after we seem to have a plethora of difficulties last week. I don't think we've had one so far. There might be a little awkwardness when the show began of me just staring into the camera for 10 seconds. But outside of that, I think everything's worked out pretty well. I think everything has worked out pretty well. Ultra Street Fighter. Have no idea what that is. Have no idea. No idea. Trent asks, will you be doing this every week, Rob? I really enjoy it. I think that's the plan. I would love to do this every week. I would love to have those join in the chat with me. I would love to have calls coming in. I would love to make this a YouTube exclusive for our subscribers on YouTube, voicesofwrestling.com/YouTube, where you can watch this on the show and you don't have to worry about missing an audio podcast because there's no audio podcast of this. I'm not releasing it. You can rip it on your own if you want to. Right now, the plan is just to do it on YouTube and make it weekly after Raw. I think that is my plan right now. So we've done this 2 weeks in a row now. We'll see if we do it next week. I'll plan on it. I don't know if it's set in stone yet, but I plan on it. It would make it very easily. And I'm not going to beg for, we have a little donation button on the YouTube page. I recently set up a PayPal link for donations if you want to donate via credit card or PayPal. I haven't hyped it up that much because I don't want to be a beggar by any means. And I'm honest with you. I'm going to do these shows whether you donate or not. There are other shows out there that ask for donations, and that's great. If you want to ask for donations, perfect. There are some that kind of force you to want to donate by threatening to cancel the show or anything, and I don't want to do that. And if that's what they do, that's fine. I'm not going to say if you don't donate, I can't do the show. It's not the case. I'm going to do the show and we're going to keep doing Shake Them Ropes whether you donate or not. But if you would like to show your support, if you like these shows and want to toss a few dollars our way to improve the show later on or just keep it going and make us feel good, you can. The link is in the description. It is paypal.me/Rob McCarran, my name. So if you want to donate a little bit, it would be greatly appreciated. And as a thank you, if you do donate, because you can leave a message, I think your name goes with it. I think you can be anonymous if you want to. My email is rob@voicesofwrestling.com. If you send a donation in, you can either send a message in the PayPal donation or email me that you donated, and you will get a shout out. You will get, whatever you want me to say for you on the show. And I can do it on this live show, or I can do it on Shake Them Ropes. Shake Them Ropes with a little larger listenership. Whatever you want to say, I will read that email for you. I will read a thank you to you. I will thank you personally on the show. So if you want to donate to the show, you can send a shout out my way, rob@voicesofwrestling.com. I by no means am trying to sound like I'm begging or anything. I don't expect to get a lot. If we get overwhelming donations, that'd be great, but I'm not trying to say the show's not going to go on if you don't donate, but it would be greatly appreciated. And maybe even help Jeff Hawkins buy a new mic for Shake Them Ropes. Cause he's currently using a not so good one. And sometimes I have trouble trying to get it to sound good, but we'll see. PayPal.me/Rob McCarran. You can go in the donate button on the description if you would like That'd be great. But moving on from that. Mean Mox, so can we just call in or what? Yes. The call-in number is on the screen. 260-494-3811 or Let's Say Things on Skype. If you're calling worldwide, if you're outside the US, you can call on Skype. Let's Say Things, all one word, this week or in the future. You do have to add me as a contact. So if you add me as a contact, I will accept it so that you can call in, because I think you have to add me as a contact first. Trent asks, can we talk about how awesome Becky Lynch was tonight? Her promo was really great. Yes. This might have been the best thing in this Divas Revolution all year. And I'm not talking this calendar year. I'm talking the last year. This was great. Becky Lynch showed fire. She's finally not the dope who keeps getting fooled by these people pretending to be her friends. She showed fire. She's threatening to rip Charlotte's arm off. It's the first time that you actually, as a viewer, wanted to watch Becky Lynch in the ring with Charlotte, where Charlotte had to defend her title. You want to see that match. Not only could it be really good if they're given time, but now you have fire behind it. This is what the Divas division should have been for a while now. Establish a challenger, establish a champion, establish a reason why these two would be in the ring. And even if that reason had been they both want to be the best, sometimes that's good enough. But now we have Charlotte, who's letting the title get to her head. Becky Lynch, who had been friendly with Charlotte, is not going to take it anymore. And now for revenge, she's going to take the title from Charlotte. Absolutely great story. Becky Lynch, the fire. That's all you want. Charlotte's great in her role, too, of thinking she's the babyface. She's that heel who thinks she's the victim. And it makes you just want to punch her. Obviously, not you or I, but Becky Lynch. You want to see Becky Lynch punch her for you, because that would be socially acceptable. Becky Lynch has a degree in acting. Yeah, she was great tonight. And sometimes she's really good when she's not acting as, if you watched her in Shimmer Wrestling, if you watched her in NXT when she was, not just the dope following orders, when she broke away from Sasha Banks, it was the same thing. Becky Lynch is great, people. Becky Lynch is great. Steven asks in the chat room, what other matches do you see on the Royal Rumble card now that the main event is for the title? It's an interesting thought. We have a lot of factions coming up in WWE now, so it seems like this Royal Rumble will both be about faction warfare inside the Rumble. You have the Wyatts, you have the Social Outcasts. Who knows, maybe you have the Bullet Club at some point. You have the Usos, the Dudley Boys, Team ECW. It seems to be that the main event is going to be a big main event, a long one. I don't know how many undercard matches we'll have. I think we'll have Charlotte and Becky for the title. We might have Kalisto defending the U.S. title, maybe against Alberto Del Rio, but, Alberto was getting his rematch on SmackDown. Maybe Alberto wins it back. Maybe they just kind of move Alberto out of the U.S. title picture now that John Cena's gone. Just kind of get that on an undercard guy. Intercontinental title might be on the line. Or you just have a tag match. Not even a tag title match, but a tag match. Although I do see the Usos and the New Day kind of being in something. It's interesting because they haven't really developed a singles match outside of the Divas Championship for Royal Rumble. So whatever gets on there are matches that can make sense, but there are not matches that have been built up very strongly. What's the deal with Sasha? Is she hurt or not? She says no, but Meltzer keeps saying she is. Well, the proof is in the fact that Sasha Banks hasn't been anywhere on the cards lately. She hasn't been wrestling on house shows. She hasn't been wrestling on WWE TV. When she was somewhat healthy, she wasn't wrestling a lot, but she was still on the cards. She has not been seen anywhere wrestling in the ring for a while. So it seems likely that she's hurt. And she could still be stemming from injuries from that Brooklyn match. If you remember NXT Brooklyn, her match with Bayley, where she had the really awkward fall on her neck towards the end of that match. I don't think she's been right ever since that. I know she had the Iron Man match and she was really strong. I think she's still suffering from that match. I think whatever injury she has stems from that match in Brooklyn with Bayley. So I would hope she gets better. I think there's strong possibility for a really big Divas angle for WrestleMania. Maybe Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. Or maybe she just has a part in a multi-women match. At least give her something at WrestleMania. These women, Sasha Banks, the 4 horsewomen, Bayley would love to be on WrestleMania, but I don't think that seems very likely this year. Becky Lynch, Charlotte, you would love to see them all on WrestleMania after the year they had in NXT. Just for them. Not even character-wise. I would love to see them at WrestleMania. Steven asks, I wish they would involve NXT somehow. Maybe an NXT mini Rumble. Well, we're getting an NXT Battle Royal on TV, a women's Battle Royal on NXT TV over the next couple of weeks. So you'll get some type of NXT, Battle Royal action, but an NXT crossover on the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, I don't seem likely. They are taping TV on that Friday, so there's going to be plenty of NXT involvement over the weekend. Whether you get an NXT match on the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, I wouldn't count on it because there have been NXT stars, even when they've been in Orlando at the shows, and they just like to keep it to WWE only. So I don't know if you're going to see any NXT involvement at the Royal Rumble, but again, one more thing to watch for. That Royal Rumble weekend is going to be crazy. We will be back, Jeff and I, for a live Shake Them Ropes on YouTube here on this channel after the Royal Rumble, so stay tuned for that. Watch the Royal Rumble. Come and chat with us about it here on the YouTube. We will tentatively be back next week. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the like button on this video. If you're watching on the web, like the video, please. It takes 1 second, not even that. If you want to consider donating, the link is in the description here. Follow me on Twitter at Shake Them Ropes. You can get all the information about the live shows, the call-in numbers, when we're going to do them. So if you're not a follower already, I encourage you to go follow at Shake Them Ropes and share these videos. Let's get more people involved. Tell your friends who are wrestling fans who may not be watching to get involved with these videos so we can have more people in the chat. And Steven follows up. This will be the last thing. Only reason I suggest it is because they haven't built any singles matches really besides the Divas title match for the rest of the card. And you're right. That's the only match they've been building up. So they could do an NXT match of some kind at the Royal Rumble. I just don't know if they will. I don't think they'll do that. It's not something that they've been prone to do lately. I mean, over the last year and a half, we've had 2 matches between NXT people on WWE TV that hasn't been NXT. We had the NXT tag team match that built up the 4-way main event at the TakeOver a while ago. And we had Charlotte versus Natalya before she debuted. It's just not something they like to do. So I really don't see that happening here on the Royal Rumble weekend. But you never know. We'll see. If they do it, we'll talk about it on Shake Them Ropes post-show. Get all of our calendar at Shake Them Ropes on Twitter. I want to thank everybody so much for joining us tonight. Thanks, Nathan, for calling in. Hopefully we get more calls next time. I encourage you to call into the show. Even if you don't think you'll be any good, give it a try. Why not? The worst that can happen is that, you make a little small fool of yourself. Who hasn't done that? I've done it for the last hour here. Really easy to do. So we'll see you next time on VOW Live, tentatively titled VOW Live. Send in show name suggestions. If you suggest a name, Rob at voicesofwrestling.com or at Shake Them Ropes. If I like your name, if we take the name that you suggest and make it the name of our show, I will think of some type of prize for you. I don't know what that will be, but I will think of something good. So send in suggestions to Rob at voicesofwrestling.com. Like the video. I will see you all next week on VOW Live.